Hello, I'm Chef Gates, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a pizza dough from scratch. So, in front of me, we have our flour, water, we have our baking powder, salt, and a little oil. And right over here is our floured surface. A floured surface is important because we don't want any of the dough to stick. As you can see, I have a little bit of a flour pile, just in case I might need a little extra flour. But the idea is not to be afraid to get a little flour in your hands. So, what we're going to do is, we're going to take our flour. We are going to make a little well with our hand, right? And we're going to take salt, baking powder, and actually I'm going to just give it another mix just to incorporate that baking powder and salt evenly through this flour mixture. Right? Let's hit that little well. In that well, I'm going to add water. Then also, I'm going to add the little bit of oil I have. And now this is where it gets fun. You get your hands a little dirty, right? So the idea is just to kind of mix the flour until you get somewhat of a ball-like mixture. I usually start off with just like one hand. You're not necessarily don't want to cut the dough. You want to get more of a ball mixture, so you're not cutting the dough. You want to mix it as much as you can. Don't incorporate as much of that flour as you can. And when it starts to like somewhat kind of form a ball, you can get your other hand involved. And it's going to stick a little bit. That's fine. You're going to do a little bit of a folding process until you get a nice ball mixture. Now if it feels like it's a little sticky, you can add a little bit more flour to it. Usually I go over here, just add a little bit more flour. You got a nice ball mixture. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your dough and you want to get it on to your floured surface. You don't want your dough to be sticky. If it feels a little sticky, that's fine. Let's get a little bit of flour. You don't want your dough to be sticky. And this right here is just kneading the dough to a nice ball. If it still feels a little sticky, you add a little bit more flour as needed. Only add flour as needed. Too much flour will dry out your bread. Alright? Nice ball. Right? And then take a little flour. Just get rid of some of the excess dough on your hands with the flour. Now I'm going to take my rolling pin. Little flour in the rolling pin. start to feel like it's starting to stick to the pin, you just get a little more flour on your rolling pin. You want to start off in one direction. A bigger rolling pin actually be a lot better, but it's fine. The idea is to get your dough all the way out. Sticking a little bit, so I'm going to add a little more flour. Doesn't stick. Now how far you stretch it out is going to determine how thick your dough is going to be. So you just work it. You have a little patience, but it comes out. Now, the idea is you want it somewhat the length of your sheet pan. So I'm almost there as far as lengthwise. You don't want it longer than your sheet pan. You don't want it too short. That's how you measure it. You want it just within that radius. Gotta turn my dough. Now I'm just gonna stretch it out just from the side. And even when you're going from the side, you still, at the same time, you still want to stay within this length from the side, the length of the pan. Now you can choose to use parchment paper or oil. Some people's cases they'll use oil, some people use parchment paper. And that's our pizza dough from scratch, and in part 2 you will see this cooked to finish. Woo! Hello, I'm Chef Gates, and this is part 2 of making the pizza dough from scratch. Now, before I pull this out, just so you know, this is just the pizza dough. Now, whatever kind of pizza that you are making, of course, you know, once you make your dough, before you get in the oven, you make sure you get your toppings on there, and you want to throw it in the oven for like anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. Gotta pull it out. Gotta make sure I set it on these pads. And again, remember, you can use parchment paper like this, or you can use oil. And when you check it, just make sure it's stiff. You can always check, make sure it's stiff. And there you have it, pizza dough from scratch.